and welcome to We Poets. My name is Sally Baker, and I'm the host of We Poets. We Poets is a poetry show for boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 13. So if you would like to be on the program, please have your school teacher or your parents call me. Also, if you are a dependable middle school or high school student and you would like to get a free internship and learn how we produce We Poets, I'd love to hear from you also. You can have your parents or your school teacher call me. And I'm always looking for adult guests to come. And tonight I have two wonderful guests here, a father and his daughter, and they're going to tell us all about the typewriter company that they own. And then we're going to hear the second half from Ken, who's one of their typewriter repairmen. So we have an interesting program for you tonight. And we're here at La Peña Cultural Center in Berkeley, California. So let's get started. Here on my right is Mr. Herb PERMILLION. He's the owner. And on my left here is his beautiful daughter. And her name is CARMEN PERMILLION. And they're going to tell us all about their shop called California Office Machines. So, sir, why don't we start out with you? When did you start your business?
Yes, actually, I purchased the business in 1981, and then I just worked it from there.
You were the only one to purchase it?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, right.
Had you had work in typewriters before?
Yes, I worked in IBM with their typewriters for 15 years before I found out that this business was going to be sold. The gentleman that had it was retired, and so I bought it from him and continued on with it.
I bet you're about the only African-American typewriter business in the area, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, I'm very proud of you, very proud of you. You've lasted all these years.
Yeah.
And I bet you've trained many other African-American young men and young women, right?
Well, not really.
Oh, not really?
No,
Okay.
I don't do any training per se.
I see.
Yeah, right. The only training I do is maybe with a customer. They might be asking a question about something, and we could, like putting on a ribbon or something.
Oh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nothing too complicated for the most part there. Yeah.
Now, how did you get your beautiful daughter interested in working in the shop?
Well, she just kind of took on to it, and she's been there ever since.
Wow, wonderful. So now we're going to hear from you, Carmen.
Okay.
Tell us all about you. How young were you when you started working in Dad's shop?
Well, he bought the business when I was 11.
11.
So I could not work there at that point.
Right.
Around 17 or 18, it was a requirement for me to come there after school.
Oh, yes.
So after doing that for many years, I, it's just what happened. It just evolved into me being the one to work with him. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
What was your favorite job there?
Well, the customers, dealing with the customers, making sure that they're taken care of, satisfied, happy. They have to leave happy, or
yes.
So, I think my favorite part is relating with the customers.
Good,
Yeah.
good. And like what ages and what ethnic groups come into the shop?
All different ages and all different ethnic groups. We, about probably 5 years old is about the youngest of the children that want to type. They have stories in their head and they're asking for a typewriter. And I believe in the 90s is one of my customers also, so it runs the gamut.
I see.
Yeah.
So like the parent would bring the child in and say they want to purchase a typewriter.
Yes, that's
right?
correct, right. And we find one for the child to use and in the right price range. That's important. Your next writer is walked out the door. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, after a person buys a typewriter, I'm sure they have to come in maybe for repairs, right?
Not too many repairs, more likely ribbons. I mean, we do have some customers that have been there for decades. So their typewriters do need repair after 5 years or some damage has happened. So, but yeah, they do have to come back for ribbons. Yeah.
Now, Are other companies still making typewriters?
There are a few electronic typewriters still being made by Brother International and Nakajima. They still make a typewriter. But no manuals that I'm aware of are still being made. Yeah, manual typewriters. Yeah.
Now, sir, where do you get your old typewriters that you have on display in the store?
Oh, in many cases they come from flea markets, and occasionally we might find something online, but rarely. Most of them come from the flea market. Yeah.
And how often do you go to the flea markets or garage sales to find typewriters?
Yeah, and thrift stores.
And thrift stores,
yeah,
yes.
right, yeah.
So you're always out looking for typewriters?
I have been, yes. Yeah, yeah. Usually, sometimes I can bring back 10, 15, 20, yeah.
Wow, that many, like if you go to the flea market, you can find 10 typewriters?
Yeah.
Good lands. I didn't think there'd be that many.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Some flea markets are noted for them, and some don't have as much. Yeah. So it's
Do you find more women or men buy typewriters?
That's a good question. I would. That is a good question. I think it's even. I mean, I see there are a lot of men that come into the store buying typewriters. Females, maybe not so much as men. So yeah, men are still typing. Yeah, or they're buying one for their wife or girlfriend. So you never really know who's typing on it. But I would say I'd probably have more male customers. Yeah.
Now, what is the oldest typewriter that you have in your store?
Oh, I think that's probably an Oliver, something like that.
We have
from,
And about how many years old is it?
it's 1890s, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
1890. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
something like that. 80.
Now, recently
90.
I heard that a movie was made about your store, that this gentleman came and filmed your store.
Yes.
And you've gotten international publicity.
Yes.
Now, who's going to tell us about that?
I can say a little bit. It is
Okay.
it's a documentary.
Okay.
And the director is Doug Nichols. And he made a documentary regarding, there's 3 stories kind of tied into, the one movie. It has to do with us who repair typewriters. There is a gentleman who collects old typewriters in it, and then there is a gentleman who makes art out of old typewriters.
Oh.
So, but it's about society and the changing face of it with technology and all, and kind of scooting typewriters to the side in a way. So, yeah.
And so it's seen all over the world now?
A lot of people have seen it, yes, and we don't get calls from Europe, but
Well, we hope you will.
No, yes, yes,
Yeah, right.
yeah, a lot of people have seen it. Yeah.
And did you have a nice gala at your store?
We've had a few type-ins at the store, but the celebration for the movie was actually held at Telluride, which has a film festival every year.
In what city?
Telluride, Colorado.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, so that's where we went and opened. The film was first shown to folks, and it was received wonderfully.
Now, if people coming into your shop would like to look at it, do you have it there where people can view it?
We sell the DVD, but it is available on some streaming services, and also available on Canopy for free, which is a library service, or the libraries offer that for free.
I see.
If you have a card.
Now, I did come to a showing at the main library several months ago. Could you tell us about that, please?
Well, I think one of the ladies at the library had brought her typewriter in for her daughter to wanted to use it, and after speaking to her and after getting her typewriter repaired, she suggested that we have a showing at the library. So that's how that came about. She just set a date, and we brought some typewriters up, and people came to see the movie.
Yes, it was so fun. You had a nice crowd, and
Yeah.
they served popcorn, and
Yeah.
it was just a
Yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah,
event.
on that huge screen they have.
Yes.
Yeah, it was wonderful, yeah.
Yes. Now, sir, is there anything else you would like to put out before we have Ken come on later on and demonstrate some of the typewriters?
Oh, I'll let Ken do the demonstrating. Yeah.
Well, tell us
Yeah.
about your background. What did you do before, in your younger years,
Yeah.
before you retired?
Retired? Yeah. Let's see, when was that?
Let's
Yeah,
see.
right. What did I do? Well, actually,
What kind of work?
well, let's see, I've done a couple of different things prior to getting with IBM and thereby getting involved in typewriters. Before I worked for them, I didn't know what a typewriter was. Yeah, it's hardly. Yeah, I'd used one in high school, but
Oh, yes.
yeah, that's about the size of it. And so, as a result of that, yeah, I've been doing typewriters ever since. Yeah.
How about sports? Were you into sports?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tell
Back
us about
in
that.
yeah, I did. I played a little football.
Oh,
Yeah, track
good.
and a little basketball.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that was my high school activities. Oh, aside from auto shop.
yes.
Yeah, had to have that and machine shop.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it went on and so forth. And yeah, I was in a wood shop.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, all these
Well,
things.
we're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to
okay.
have Ken come on, and then Ken's going to tell us how he repairs many of these old typewriters. And new typewriters, they have to be repaired too, you know.
Yeah.
So Ken's name is Ken Alexander, and so he's going to come on next, and we're going to put him on the hot seat. So boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, don't turn off those TVs. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're coming back with Ken. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi guys, my name's Ken Alexander and I work at California Office Machines, also known as California Typewriter. We do typewriters as well as other type of office equipment. Today I brought you some typewriters to take a look at, and these are like from 3 different eras, if you will. I've been repairing machines for over 40 years now, and I've seen a lot, but there's also some that I really haven't seen. So there were so many companies that made typewriters that even today, I'll still get typewriters coming in the shop that I've yet to see before. So it makes my job really interesting. It really does. So you get to see new different things and different ways to go about putting a character on a page. And so every company had their own engineering, and everyone thought they made the best machine. And a lot of them made some very good ones. The ones that stuck around, I have 3 here actually. This is in Underwood. This goes way back, probably around the 1920s or so. I'm not a historian, but it's fairly old. Underwood was one of the first companies that actually developed the first front strike typewriter. I remember early in the typewriter manufacturing days, the first typewriters you actually couldn't see what you're typing. They were called them upstrikes, where they hit from the bottom of this platen here. But Underwood developed one that hit from the front, and it actually just revolutionized the whole typewriter world. People that couldn't type on typewriters before can type on one now because you can see what you were typing. The early machines you could not. But since these guys came out with it, then it followed suit that everyone else was going to make a visible front strike typing typewriter. And they came in various different kinds of designs, colors, you name it. These guys were trying to get your business any way they could. So today, let's look at a couple that I have here. Like I mentioned, this is in Underwood. It's a portable, comes with a case. And for the date, I really like it because most typewriters of this era usually came in a black or a gray. But Underwood and some of the other companies did have some nice funky colors. So for a machine this old with a color like this, with a 2-tone and a black and gray on it, it's black and green on it rather, it's kind of a strikingly handsome machine, I think. The decoys, the decals, excuse me, on here just really brings out the nice vintage look of these machines. So I have a lot of customers that actually prefer the vintage ones, as they're known as. The one thing about most of these typewriters is that they were all different, but they did make some things standardized, like the ribbons themselves. They decided to go with a 1/2-inch ribbon, so pretty much any typewriter you can get a ribbon for. It didn't have to be special typewriter or special size ribbon. Some of the spools were different, but the ribbons actually were the same on it. So the Underwood here is a 4-bank model. Earlier machines, by the way, they did not put a 1 key on it, and I don't know why. I guess I've heard some different reasonings why the 1 key was not put on it, but they wanted you to use the lowercase L to type a 1 key, and it worked just fine for most machines. Later on, they did start adding a 1 key on it, but earlier models, they didn't. And earlier models also had a carriage that shifted up. This is called a carriage shift. And so if we're going for capitals, you would actually shift and the carriage would go up to let you get capitals on it. Later on, they went to something where what they call a segment shift, like this on this Hermes here. I'll open up the top here. And they found out it was a lot easier to have the carriage go down as opposed to have it going up. Usually you're going to use that pinky finger to shift on it, and it's kind of some of these big machines that can get kind of heavy to shift that up. So the downshifting segment became the way to go, and pretty much everybody did it. Now, a lot of people ask me about repairs, what happens with them, what goes wrong with them. A lot of times, it's not necessarily a broken part or something that's out. A lot of times, it's just dirt. A lot of times, machines are dirty, and I get questions: how much oil do you use on it? Well, because the typewriter has a lot of moving parts, does not necessarily mean it needs a lot of oil on it. A lot of times, we use flushing agents, degreasers, that sort of thing, to free up sticky mechanisms in it, and that seems to work. We do use oil on certain parts like bearings and things like that, but not a whole bunch, as one might think on it. The best way to keep your typewriter going is to use it. These guys were made to design not to sit on a shelf, not to sit somewhere under the desk, but to be typed as much as you can on it. The more you use it, the better it'll work. Trust me, they work great as long as you keep using them. Now, this one here is a little bit later model. This is a Hermes Model 3000, somewhere around the mid-60s. And this is made in Switzerland. And this is considered probably a quality typewriter. You have a lot of American companies and a lot of European companies. The American companies being like, well, IBM here. We'll get to this in a minute. IBM, Royal, Underwood, Smith Corona. These are all American companies. Then you had the European guys. You had the Hermes, you had Olympia, you had Adler. So they were made all over the globe. And I get machines in from all over the globe from time to time because a lot of typewriters that were made for the European market have little different things, a little different small things to let you know that it was made in Europe and someone bought it over here. Usually the ribbon spools are a little bit different, and some small other little things, or it'll have a pound sign on it, or some other foreign language symbol on it. But they're all basically the same, the way that they work. And this typewriter works essentially the same as this one does. The mechanisms that they put inside to get a carriage to move, they're almost identical, but of course the designs are changed and they do it their own different way as to not to step on anyone's toes patent-wise, I'm sure. So when you press a key down, there's a mechanism called an escapement. And as the name implies, it escapes. It allows the carriage to move, or escape, if you will, as you're typing. Now, they designed these also to not only move the carriage, but also to feed and lift the ribbon. So it's going to lift the ribbon, and it's going to feed it, and it's going to let you type on the paper. And the mechanism is going to go back, and it's going to wait for the next character to hit. It works the same on this, and just about any mechanical typewriter. There were a few exceptions of maybe some off weird designs, but other than that, these guys work about the same. Now, the machines I get in the store are a lot of the same ones. I get a lot of Hermes, I get a lot of Underwoods. These were the more popular brands. Smith Coronas, I really get a lot of those. Royals. The American companies sold quite a lot, and people supported those machines. And the Smith Corona, by the way, is probably one of my favorite ones to work on. I get a lot of people asking me if I'm going to work on a typewriter, which one should I start with? And I don't have one here, but I would recommend the Smith Corona typewriter because when you take the bottom off, you can see how everything works on it, and nothing's hiding or in the way or something. It's really a good machine to learn for your first machine for repair. So These guys here are a little bit more difficult, but after you get comfortable with them, you can pretty much work on just about anything. Just knowing what's supposed to happen when you push a key, and it's the same on any typewriter. Now, let's talk about this IBM for a second here. In the 1960s, IBM developed a typewriter. Well, they didn't really develop it. They just redid a earlier version of a single element machine. This one's a little stuck here, but I'll tell you when we open up the top and I'll lift this up for you. This has got a ball on it, as you can see, and this element allows you to change the font or typeface, if you will, on it. And so, unlike these here, you bought a type style, that's what you got. You couldn't change it. Here it gave you versatility. So this would make this machine kind of unique, is that you're not limited to that one typeface. You can change it, put a script on it, something boldface, even languages. So there was a lot of different type styles you can choose from it. And also you can see the ribbons are a cassette and not a spool. So ribbon change are easy, and the element change is easy. Now, you might be wondering what these two guys here are. This is a correction tape. And what this does, IBM developed a typewriter that actually, most people would usually cover their mistakes up, or you use an eraser on it, that sort of thing. Well, with this one, they develop a ribbon and a correction tape, as they call it, that actually pulls the mistake off the page as opposed to covering it up. So you're going to get a nice clean correction. You don't even know the character was there. And that's what made this machine take off. The fact that it can correct and the fact that you can change type styles on them. So they're just very good. They work differently than these two guys, however, as far as mechanism. It's very similar, but IBM did a little something different with their machines here, because this element is just, it totally just changed the way a typewriter is designed to work. This has to tilt the element up and rotate it around and then strike the paper. So that's got a lot of timing involved in it. Here it's a much simpler action. When you just hit a key, it lifts up the ribbon, it types, and it goes back down. Now, repairs. These guys have a pretty good track record, but every typewriter, there's no typewriter that's indestructible. Something's going to happen to something one way or another. Either something's going to wear out, and something's going to just not stop working. And so it's going to happen. Anything mechanical I think we make is just not made to last forever. So that's just that's my thinking there on it. But it also makes for me to have a job, because we can fix these things. One thing about these guys is that people are asking, they're always asking about parts, that sort of thing. Obviously, there's no more new parts being made. So every machine we pretty much get in the shop, we're going to hang on to it. And we rarely, we never ever throw these in the dumpster or anything like that. They're always recycled. If we don't do something with it, then we've got an artist that makes very beautiful sculptures out of the old typewriter parts. So they're always used, and they're always in demand. And there is a growing number of typewriter enthusiasts out there that are getting into these things. So everyone's looking for parts. So you're not going to find anything that's like getting wasted or getting dumped out, because somebody somewhere is looking for something. He may be in the Philippines or somewhere, but it's the way it is. But at any rate, I hope you guys can come down and see our shop, 2362 San Pablo Avenue in Berkeley. We'd love to have you. I'm getting told we're going to take a break, so we'll talk to you soon.
Welcome back to the second half of We Poets. I'm Sally Baker, the host. And before we end our program, we did want to stress that our program is about recycling. Instead of you people throwing things away that fills up our landfills, we want you to recycle them and put them back to good use. And this has been a wonderful program about how you can take your old typewriter or your new typewriter that you don't want to use anymore. Don't throw it away, but take it down to this wonderful shop called California Office Machines and let them refurbish it for you. So without further ado, I'm going to ask our guests here if they have any parting words for us. Sir, do you have any parting words for us?
Yes, I do. I want to thank all of you for having us here and enjoying the typewriters.
Good, and I want to thank you for buying this business so many years ago, and especially for African Americans, because we need more African Americans who own typewriter repair businesses. So thank you so much. And Carmen.
Yes, I would just like to maybe tell you when our shop is open and where we're located. We are actually also called California Typewriter at 2362 San Pablo Avenue in Berkeley. Our office hours are Wednesday through Friday from noon to 5 and Saturdays from noon to 3. And we do make appointments outside of those hours.
Great. Do you ever have school teachers bring their students in for a tour?
It's been a while since that's happened, but we have had that before, yeah.
Great, great. And Ken?
Well, I'd just like to let you guys know that typewriters, even though they haven't been manufactured, there's still a lot of enthusiasts out there. You guys just keep doing what you're doing, and my tagline is keep them typing.
Keep 'em typing,
Keep them typing, yes, indeed. And if you haven't seen the documentary, I highly recommend it. It's not really a documentary on typewriters per se, but on society and how technology is changing us, and how sometimes it's maybe best to go back to something. I have a lot of poets, actually, that type, and they cannot and will not ever do poetry on a laptop, on a computer. No, they don't. They need this, or they're going to use a pen. And so, consequently, you poets out there, we're here out there for you. And you writers and you screenwriters and everyone else that just wants to fool around and type notes and send them off letters to their Uncle Becky someplace.
And now tell us about your son. Didn't he work at the shop too?
My son is, yeah, he does come out, and he has helped us. He actually has kind of a good hand. So some of the decals that are on some of these older machines, I bring him in to put a coating on them to protect them, so they don't get damaged in the servicing part of the thing. So he's really good at that. As far as fixing them, not so much.
Let Dad do that.
He lets Dad take care of that. Yeah, he does. But he's a good kid, and he gives me a hand anytime I need him. So
Great.
yeah.
Again, tell us about this poster.
Well, this is actually a poster of the documentary, and if you take a look at it, you'll see it's a reenactment of something that happened in the '60s, where these two writers were riding down I think it was Nevada Road or something, Carmen, and they had a typewriter on the front seat, and it was just bugging the guy, and he just chucks it out, and next thing you know, they go back and take pictures of it like it's a crime scene. So that's sort of that there. But we are actually excited. If you guys can check out California Typewriter, we got the DVDs, or you can get them online and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, thank you so very much. All three of you did a wonderful job, and I know our audience is going to enjoy watching it, and I hope you get lots of customers to come down and bring their typewriters. So without further ado, let's wave goodbye to our watching audience. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks.
Come buy some typewriters and have your typewriter repaired. Don't put it in the landfill.
That's right.